Are you constantly tired, anxious, low in mood, and finding everyday life hard to cope with? Do you find yourself reacting strongly to things you know are not actually dangerous, such as a phone call, a meeting, or a conversation? Do situations that should feel ordinary or even enjoyable, like socializing, gardening, or taking the dog for a walk, feel like they're too much? And is your world just getting smaller? If yes, all of this suggests that you have a sensitized nervous system. Just think about it. Do your nerves feel shot? Are you unable to cope? Are you nervy? Well, what does a sensitized nervous system mean? Let's look at this logically, which means we'll look at what is the nervous system, and then we'll have a look at what is a sensitized nervous system. And stick with me on this one. I'll keep it as short as possible, but understanding this demystifies trauma completely, which removes the fear. Understanding this will immediately reveal what has happened to you and how to heal. So the nervous system is composed of two main parts. We've got the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, which we'll get into in a moment. Think of the brain as the CEO of a company whose office is on the top floor. He wants the big picture. He makes decisions and he stores the company data. And think of the spinal cord, which runs from the brain right down to your spine, to your lower back, as a data pipeline. So the brain is the CEO of the company and lives in the headquarters, and the data pipeline connects the CEO so that he can communicate between the top floor and the lower floors. Let's now add in the peripheral nervous system. And as the name suggests, with the word peripheral, this system acts as the branches that spread outwards into all of the different departments of the company. And it's composed of field agents, of which there are two types. There are those whose job it is to gather information and feed it back up to headquarters. So, for example, if we touch a stove that is hot and painful, these agents would know that, and they would send a message through the pipeline to the CEO and say, the stove is hot and painful. And then there are the second team of field agents, and they take the orders from the CEO that pop out of the data pipeline, and they carry out the tasks that are required. So one of these agents might take a finger off the hot stove because a message has come through the pipeline by the CEO which says, take your finger off that hot stove right now. So let's take that system and put it into a situation of threat. So it could be that you're sitting at your desk when a grizzly bear suddenly appears outside your window. The information gathering field agents in your eyes and ears spot the threat and send an urgent file up the data pipeline or the spinal cord to the top floor. The CEO or the brain receives the file on the top floor. Now, he doesn't use his whole brain as he needs to think really quickly. So he makes a speedy decision and thinks this is a life or death crisis. He hits the company-wide panic button, triggering the fight or flight protocol. And he does all of this by slamming a direct command down the data pipeline or the spinal cord. So, the order executing field agents receive the alert and they instantly fan out to reallocate company resources for survival. They might order the heart and the lungs department to pump furiously to flood the office air vents with oxygen. They completely shut down the cafeteria or the digestive system because the CEO has decided that digesting lunch is a waste of electricity when a bear is at the window. They force the security blinds or pupils wide open so the company can track the bear's every move. And with key departments like muscles now screaming with emergency energy, the entire company is locked, loaded, and ready to fight, flee, or freeze. Finally, the CEO sends the ultimate choice down the pipeline. Has he asked for us to stand and fight the bear, or do we sprint out the back door and flee? Well, I've given you the simplified version, so consider just how demanding this process is on the brain and body, because a trauma response is not a small event. It requires enormous amounts of energy and resources, and it affects multiple systems as it prepares for survival. By this point, the body is a long way from a state of rest and digest. Digestion has slowed. Muscles are really tense. Breathing is fast. The heart is working hard, and the mind is scanning for threats. Every available resource has been redirected towards one goal: survival. The entire system has become primed for danger, ready to detect it, react to it, and remember it should it happen again. And it's important to realize that this is what is happening to you and in your system when you're in heavy traffic, when you're having an argument, or when you're trying to meet a deadline at work. And for many of us, just watching the TV, going to bed, or even eating our dinner. The process is not being reserved for when you're attacked. If you have trauma, PTSD, or CPTSD, or a symptom such as anxiety, this is happening to you week in, week out, day in, day out. It's real and it's a part of your everyday life. So, that's the nervous system overview. And that's also an explanation of what the nervous system does when it feels threatened. Now let's get to the meaning of sensitized. And what does a sensitized nervous system mean? For people living without trauma, once a threat has come and gone, the alarm bell stops ringing and the body redistributes its resources back to normal. The CEO stands down from red code status, allowing order executing agents to safely power up neglected areas like the digestive system to process food properly. Meanwhile, High alert departments such as the eyes, brain, lungs, and muscles see their emergency funding cut as their activity levels drop back down to a calm baseline pace. The CEO can now get back to delivering on his long-term sustainable goal of health. And he does this by delivering on his top-level objectives, such as rest, digest, and repair. Here are 4 examples of his objectives in action. Number 1, during a threat, the CEO keeps the office lights on and the staff awake. But once safe, the CEO approves a company-wide power down. In real life, your brain waves slow down, allowing the body to clear out metabolic waste, consolidate memories, and secrete growth hormones to heal muscles. Number 2, during a crisis, blood is diverted away from the gut to power your limbs. When the all clear is given, blood floods back to the stomach and intestines. In daily life, this means your stomach produces the proper acids and enzymes, preventing bloating, absorbing vitamins effectively, and ensuring smooth bowel movements. Number 3, if you scrape your knee while running from a threat, the body ignores the injury to focus on running. Now, once you relax, the CEO sends maintenance crews to the site. In reality, your immune system fires up to send white blood cells to heal wounds, fight off minor viruses, and repair the microscopic tears in your muscles from exertion. Number 4, long-term health requires a strong defense network. When the emergency ends, resources are returned to the bone marrow and lymph nodes. Real-life recovery looks like your body successfully manufacturing antibodies to keep you from catching the common cold. That is how a healthy nervous system operates. However, a sensitized nervous system never fully stands down. To understand how the brain gets stuck in this high alert loop, let's look at a simple everyday example that gives us an insight into what is happening inside the nervous system. So, if you sit at your desk and tap your index finger firmly on the table over and over again for long enough, something strange happens when you stop. Even though your hand is now completely still, your brain keeps feeling the tapping sensation. Because you repeated that action so many times, the CEO kept predicting the pain as a way to stay one step ahead and place resources where they are needed. So your awareness remains totally locked onto your finger. You're worried about your finger, and your finger continues to hurt and throb and even feel painful, despite the fact that the actual physical tapping has completely ended. The same thing happens all of the time with back pain. A person can suffer a back injury, which with time heals, but are then left with a lifetime of suffering and chronic pain. And it can happen with headaches too, and many other types of pain. For people living with trauma, the CEO just doesn't let go. Even when the actual threat has left the building, the CEO's awareness stays completely locked on the window where the threat used to be. The brain continues to send signals of threat and panic It now thinks of the sensations in the body as dangerous and also predicts any movement outside as peril, even though inside and outside are safe. The company stays in a state of high alert, pouring its resources into defense because the CEO believes the crisis never ended. The interesting fact here is that with time, the threat response becomes less specific to the original context and it broadens out. So, what may have begun as a fear of driving after a car accident can gradually evolve into a more general sense that the world is unsafe, causing fear to appear in many areas of our life. What's happened is that because your nervous system became sensitized and you're now living on red alert, your capacity is minimal. You literally can't cope with stress of any kind. As time goes by, you have to cope with life throwing little and large stresses at you. And as it does that, because you've got very little capacity anyway, it starts to plummet to zero. So, situations that should be pleasant are not, because your brain and body now literally has no capacity at all. This is why tiredness, low mood, anxiety, chronic pain, and other health conditions are part of trauma. Tiredness, because we are expending so much energy to remain in a hypervigilant state of readiness. All of this action and muscle tension uses vast amount of energy. Anxiety, because we have adrenaline and cortisol coursing through our body, helping us to get ready to either have a fight or leg it. Low mood, because we can no longer cope with anything which is soul destroying. Added to that, we don't do much anymore, so we're bored, frightened, tired, and have probably lost all of our dreams by now. Other health conditions appear because finite resources mean not all of the kids at the table are going to get their dinner. What does that mean? Well, some of the departments don't have enough resources and so become sick. And other departments are so overly jacked up with resources that they also become sick. The key is to understand that our brain is now in a constant state of hypervigilance and is sending messages of threat down the pipeline to the departments regularly. And there are two types of message it sends. The first is in response to what is happening inside the company, such as fear about sensations and states like anxiety, depression, or migraines. The second is in response to what is happening outside of the company, such as fear about driving or going outside. Both types of message signal the alert back down the pipeline, and the workers continue to respond by throwing resources towards the threat response. This is where allowing and meditation come in, as they provide a framework which we can practice in a guided way. But then we continue to apply in everyday life. That's the important part. We learn in the guided meditation and we practice safely there, and then we take it into everyday life. Allowing helps us to heal because it helps us to realize that sensations and emotions in the body can be painful or uncomfortable, but they're not dangerous. Fear is not dangerous. Anxiety is not dangerous. Shame is not dangerous. An increased heart rate is not dangerous. Being out of breath is not dangerous. And a migraine is not dangerous. They all feel dangerous, but they are not. So practice allowing them to be present while understanding they are not dangerous. They really are not. They are literally made to help us. They guide us towards or away from life or death situations. And as that life or death situation just does not exist, we just let the chemicals, such as adrenaline, squirt into our body and have their effect and then degrade away. This is all that we are feeling in our body. It's painful, yes, but it's not dangerous. It's nothing sinister, macabre, or complicated like some depth psychology may have you believe. For example, the first surge of adrenaline is often what we feel as anxiety in the chest. It's there to make the heart beat faster so the body can prepare for action, and it can feel painful. As the adrenaline moves through the body, we may then feel it in other places too. Jittery legs, trembling hands, shaky breath, or a sense of inner restlessness, which may make us feel uncomfortable and afraid to experience, but they're not dangerous. And then after a while, the body begins to calm down. Now, why does it calm down? This isn't because we've solved any problem. The life or death situation was never there, so we've not solved a problem. It's because the adrenaline that was coursing through our body has now just all been used up. It's been broken down, it's been degraded and synthesized, and it's been cleared up by the body and its natural processes. That's why we feel calm. So the sensations may feel intense, but they're not dangerous. They are the physical effects of a chemical such as adrenaline rising, moving through the body and gradually reducing. If we are not fearful of such sensations, we will not signal the brain to request more of them. Now, I have many resources about allowing, and I have a course too. There are lots of useful tips I share with you. So if you want to know more about allowing sensations, have a look at those videos and playlists. So allowing is crucial, but I promise you it's not all allowing. The other technique that I use is meditation, and not the guided meditation that tells you a story, though they are perfectly helpful to relax a tired and traumatized body and mind. So stick with them if you like them. I'm talking about my meditation practices that help you to not only allow, but also to understand that your thoughts are not always true. To understand that your brain is wonderful, but it has its limitations. So we work to appreciate that the brain can serve us with thoughts in a way that is filled with such confidence and authority, but are in fact not true. I teach more about this and also how to stop engaging with such thoughts. Because once you inadvertently start to engage with this type of thinking, you're keeping your threat response alive. You're sending messages down the pipeline. Those messages come from the brain. They come from thoughts in the brain. The alarm shoots down the pipeline and the messages run all throughout the body shouting, fire, fire. So to summarize, engaging with untrue and fearful thoughts and feeling frightened of your emotions and the sensations in your body is exactly what keeps the nervous system sensitized. The pathway out is long. It can be 2 or 3 years. It takes a lot of repetition to deviate incrementally back into regulation. We're talking about changing a whole biological ecosystem, but it is totally possible. So have a look at my courses for meditations to start practicing, and have a look at the playlist called Guidance if you want to learn more about specific topics. In the meantime, if you would like to support the channel and help me make more of these videos, please join the membership. And also, could you drop me a note or leave me a comment to let me know if you want more of this information style of video as well as the meditations. So take care, and I will see you on the next one.